Hello, my name is Cyril Voisin. I'm a Chief Security Advisor at Microsoft, and it's my pleasure to present today on the strategic security priorities for 2020 and beyond. This year is definitely incredible. It's very unique, and it came with lots of challenges for all companies, all people, and I want to share the feelings that we have and the fact that we would be happier to meet in person today, but hopefully this will be possible in the future. 2020 was impacted by the pandemics, and typically that meant a lot of challenges were um, brought unexpectedly to the IT world, starting with switching everyone from working from the office to working from home, having a sudden spike in the need for remote access to applications that were never designed to be published initially from a remote location. This also put some stress into the VPN infrastructure, which was not sized for having everyone connect from outside and go through it to do video conferencing, as an example. Bad actors used the situation to use the theme of COVID-19 to press on our urgency to know more and somehow make us click on attachments, visit websites which were malicious. Although it was not really a very big increase in terms of volume, it was a repurposing of some attacks that were existing. They also were smart into noticing that with the VPN infrastructure being used more, it would be more exposed and maybe not maintained correctly with exploitation of many vulnerabilities on the VPN gateways. Definitely, there was also a challenge about the machines that would connect to the information system from a distance, because some companies didn't have the laptops, company laptops, to provide to their employees, so they had to adapt and offer access with the home PC, for example, or the smartphone, the tablet, and this is a challenge to onboard and manage these personal devices. And finally, the difficulty to roll new security controls. With this increased attack surface, definitely the risk is not decreasing, although you can adopt some technologies like cloud technologies where the baseline security is very good. There is still room for improvement and potential for mistakes, and it's very important to put the right security controls in place in a context where we are most of the time afraid of having an operational glitch that would require the user to bring their machine back to the office and to see the help desk. So how do you balance all that is something that is very important. So we've worked a lot with our customers on how to secure their remote workforce, and I'm going to share with you some of these learnings that we've had. The number one challenge is to enable remote access to applications. So the idea is to empower remote workers to access the apps they need without compromising security. And in order to do that, first of all, you need to make sure that all the apps they need are available anywhere. And this is something you can do by having a VPN, but we mentioned that the VPNs add some bandwidth and sizing issues, plus vulnerabilities on the gateways. Or you can do that by having a reverse proxy, like a TLS proxy, like Azure App Proxy, that is going to publish web applications directly to the internet with some verifications being done before. The other thing is to make the applications discoverable, because if somehow the way to access them changed, then you need to offer a panel where people will see the applications where they can go to. And of course, you need to extend the collaboration securely to not only your employees, but also your partners and your contractors at the same time. And obviously, it goes without saying that you need strong authentication. Passwords are not enough. They've never been enough. And definitely, when you start spreading your users all over the place, then it's more important than ever to activate multi-factor authentication. So if I try to summarize this first pillar, single sign-on for all the applications so that users can have a single identity, so that you can monitor this identity for behavior analysis, and you can be proactive and make it a strong identity. Second, be resilient. Make sure that you synchronize the password verifiers with your identity as a service. So typically, if I take the example of Azure Active Directory, that would mean enabling the password hash synchronization, which is a verifier of the password, which cannot be used as a hash for pass-the-hash attacks. But that's something which is part of the resilience approach, where if your on-prem systems were to suddenly stop, then the cloud would still be able to work by processing authentication for your users if you wished to. Application publishing, I explained Azure AD proxy or app proxy or VPN, your choice. We think that for VPN, you need to change somehow the approach to, if you are a company that is doing forced tunneling, it's important that you start doing forced tunneling with exemptions. Exemptions would be typically for people using Microsoft Teams, web conferencing. I have a customer where from one day to the other, they decided to connect 100,000 people to Microsoft Teams doing a video conferencing event. Obviously, the VPN was not designed for that. The product doesn't require VPN, by the way. It's designed to be having a direct connection from the endpoint to the cloud service. So basically, there are a number of applications like that. Microsoft 365 is one set of applications where we give you recommendations of the things that you can remove from your VPN because they will affect the experience. They will take a lot of bandwidth, or a slight delay is going to influence the user experience. So we've classified that as critical, medium, or less, and then you can have your own approach to optimize your VPN infrastructure should you want to use one. The second pillar is manage devices and applications. Definitely, if you want to enable people to bring their own device, you need to unify your management across these devices and applications. So you need to be able to remote provision devices and application. We have customers who decided to equip their employees with laptops using Windows Autopilot. So basically, you ship a machine to a user, and they just register with their email and password through Azure AD, and everything is then provisioned automatically. So that's quite neat. And it goes for the application, the device, and the connectivity. You can also use virtual desktop. We have Windows Virtual Desktop in Microsoft Azure, where you can provide a full managed desktop to your employees so that you have less reliance on their ability to be able to run and properly configure their endpoint. Obviously, securing mobile devices and application, MDM, MAM, lots of solutions on the market. Microsoft's own solution is called Intune, and it's part of something called Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which is definitely useful when you want to do unified management of your on-prem and your cloud assets and your corporate own devices and the bring your own devices. And it's important to not forget the basics. Update management, security updates management, patch management if you prefer, still very important. And these tools definitely help you to do that with machines which are never going to connect back to, potentially to your corporate network. And that was also a lesson for securing the remote workforce. Many people had started to adopt a modern approach to security, but they were very dependent on their corporate network being accessed frequently by the machines. And we've seen that some customers had some issues with that. So now we're trying to think about how do we make sure that we don't rely a lot on the corporate network connectivity. The third pillar is to protect the corporate resources. At the end of the day, that's really the core of it, protecting the data. So leverage built-in seamless security to protect data while keeping users productive. So here, the idea is while you're collaborating remotely with your extended enterprise contractors, partners, you need to secure the data. You need to secure not only the files and the databases, but also you need to protect the data when it's stored into cloud applications, for instance. You need also to make sure that you protect your users from phishing and malware, which are still entry door to your information systems and access to your data. And definitely, you need to the updates. So in this category, this is DLP solutions. Typically, Microsoft just announced a endpoint DLP solution, which doesn't require an agent on Windows 10. This could be also Microsoft Information Protection if you want to label the data and then encrypt it. Then it would be a CASB to protect data into your cloud applications. As an example, Microsoft has one called Microsoft Cloud App Security. Protecting the endpoints is the EDR, endpoint detection and response. As an example, Microsoft Defender ATP is one of them, a leader in this domain. And protecting against phishing, not only in emails, but also in collaboration, like when you share files in OneDrive or SharePoint, that's, for example, Office ATP, which will provide verification of links and files before they are opened by your users. So how was the Microsoft experience with this remote work event? Well, we are not very different from other companies, except that we are a technology company and we already had everyone had technology tools. But we had tens of thousands of people going every day on campus to work. So suddenly asking them to work from home was a challenge. But as you can see, we had already embarked into a zero trust initiative where we require multi-factor authentication. We ask the devices to be registered and compliant. And therefore, we were able to do conditional access where you adapt the level of access you're going to give to a user based on who they are, which machine they are using, how compliant that machine is, how risky the machine or the session is, and different other factors. And therefore, you then give them access to the applications in the cloud or on-prem. And we have still, as you can see, 15% of our traffic that was still requiring VPN because these applications were not designed to be published in any way. So we had this increase also on the VPN on our side. But because our approach was to have split tunneling, which means that we do VPN only for the things that require absolutely VPN and we don't for the rest, we were quite in a good position to absorb that peak. What you can see is that developer productivity has increased, which is good for us because we are a software factory. Collaboration is also up with lots of Teams meetings, with also two-party, three-party calls. And so definitely something that we've been coping quite well with. I have customers who have also embarked on the zero trust approach, and they told me that they were very happy they had done so, and they want to reinforce that, and especially with this reliance on corporate network that I mentioned earlier, trying to reduce that. So what is this zero trust approach? NIST has published last August a very interesting white paper called Zero Trust Architecture, where they give good definitions. So I invite you to read at least the beginning where the definitions are explained, and it's very good. So I took two things from the definitions, what I think are clarifying what zero trust is, because I see many people tell me, oh, I've never trusted anyone, so I'm already zero trust. Well, yes, of course, in security, we have never trusted anyone, but this is something a bit new. So first of all, the idea is that we shift from static network-based perimeters to user assets and resources, meaning that we don't try to protect network segments anymore. We try to protect resources themselves. Second, we don't give any implicit trust to something based only on its location or ownership. It's not because you're in the office or it's not because it's on a machine that the company owns that I will trust what you're doing. I will verify many other things, okay? So from a umbrella perspective, high-level perspective, this is what the zero trust could look like. So at the top, you see three immutable laws of security that we always apply. So first, trust, but verify. So verify explicitly. Before any session or connection, you will verify that the machine, the user, the threat intelligence you have about them, about the session and so on, everything is correct. Second, you will use least privilege access. There's no way you're going to give everyone the same level of access. Some people will have full access, some people will have a restricted access, some people will have no access. So still very important to do. And third, you will assume breach. It's not a matter of when you're going to be, or if you're going to be breached at some point, but when. So you should assume someone is in the network, someone is trying to do something, okay? So on the left, you have what the NIST called the subjects, and like the users or the machines. And on the right, you have the resources that they want to access, the data, the application, and the infrastructure. In the middle, you define your zero trust policy, saying if you're on a managed machine and you try to access something very sensitive, then you need to have done MFA and the machine needs to be compliant. If you are on an unknown machine and you try to access something general, then maybe you have access, or maybe I don't give you access, okay? Or I give you access to read it in a web browser, but you cannot download it, okay? So it's up to you to decide your policy and how you're going to enforce it. Definitely, you need to do threat protection across the board. And that leads me to the second initiative, which I think is very important. This idea of empowering your defenders. The idea is to evolve to a next generation security operations center. So typically, I see lots of large companies having SOCs, and they rely on a SIM, a solution designed to collect logs and do correlation and analytics. Um, but what we're saying is that more than the SIM, we need also automation, a SOAR, security orchestration, automation, and remediation. So the idea here is that we don't have enough security people on the market to fill all the positions open in cybersecurity. So we need to be smarter. We need to have the security people be more productive. So in order to do that, one key aspect is to make sure that we automate as much as we can. So we have released 1 year ago a cloud-native SIM and SOAR called Azure Sentinel, and it's very easy to activate because it's running as a service. You don't have to install anything. It's just there waiting for you to start. You connect your log sources, and it's going to do detections that you will choose or that you will design if you have your own use cases, or we can provide you some typical use cases. And it's going to use also machine learning in order to look into all the logs you have to detect anomalies, strange behaviors, and so on. It's definitely going to ingest everything from your company, anything from the cloud, anything from third party and partners. Okay, but what you need also is something more specialized for some very specific workloads. So this is what we call Microsoft Threat Protection. In the industry, it's called an XDR, a cross-asset detection and response. So it contains the EDR, the NDR, the CASB, you name it. Okay, I'll describe it in a moment more widely. And finally, you need something for your cloud. If you do DevSecOps, you're going to create resources all the time. And you need to make sure they're going to be secure. So you need posture management. You need also to protect your workloads in the cloud. That's what Azure Security Center can do for you. Not only in Azure, but also if you're doing VMs, it can protect the VMs in your private cloud, in AWS, in GCP, and so on. So let's take a look at Microsoft Threat Protection. As you may know, that we are leaders in many different categories of the cybersecurity world. But the idea with Microsoft Threat Protection is to really show you that we have built a platform. So we have one portal to manage all the solutions around identity, endpoints, applications, and collaboration. We provide you also expertise. So we have individuals that can come to you and help you use the product if you need to, or can bring you new detections that you've not seen yet. In identity, we have Azure AD, identity protection, Azure ATPs for your domain controllers for on-prem AD, Defender ATP is the EDR, Cloud App Security is the CASB, Office 365 ATP, the anti-phishing. And they all collaborate. So if we find something on your machine endpoint, we can warn the protection into the cloud to protect your professional mailboxes. And we can then block into a partner firewall, or we can block the user directly. So that's something that is very neat. So typically, if you want to do a new SOC, that would be a key element, specialized product, cross-asset detection and response. And with that, we are reaching the conclusion. So if I try to summarize what I try to say, we have had a fantastic year, not to say terrible. It's a lot of challenges. I'm very glad to see that many people have raised on the occasion and stepped in. What we are seeing is that if you want to address the challenges of secure remote work, there are a number of things you need to do around information protection, identity, threat protection, or even cloud security. Among all these things, there are a few things which I think are very strategic and that are good investments to not only solve the tactical challenges you have today, but also help you be on the path for the next 3 to 5 years and be able to adapt to changing conditions in security. So that's why we've designed our integrated platform to reduce complexity, to reduce to maximize the integration, to reduce the cost also, because when you're paying for different products that you need to integrate yourself, there is a cost associated to that. And so I see two different big initiatives. Number one, zero trust. Deploy zero trust. It's not a solution, by the way, it's a concept, so there are different ways to do that, but start doing it. A good way to start is conditional access in Azure AD. enabling multi-factor authentication in a smart way where you only trigger MFA when conditions have changed. And then start looking at your VPN exemptions. Exempt Microsoft 365, Teams, and so on from your VPNs. Second, build a smarter SOC, a next generation SOC. You need an XDR and you need a SIEM and SOAR. We provide you that. It's called Microsoft Threat Protection for the XDR and Azure Sentinel for the cloud native SIEM. I thank you very much for your attention, and it will be my pleasure to answer your questions. Thank you.